People are scared of people who are different.
Yeah.
And we all talk this great game about not being prejudiced.
Mm-hmm.
When inside us, we all have apprehensions.
Yes.
We all have certain fears.
Mm-hmm.
And we are naturally scared of anything that's different. It's a step we haven't made before. No matter how much you say things, until you get to know someone face to face.
Mm-hmm.
When someone comes to the South, what they're probably going to find is the reputation the South has in some ways is justified because this is where slaves were.
Yes, yeah.
And this is where people justified slavery.
Yeah. And
justified segregation.
We need to be accountable for that.
But there was just as much segregation in the North.
Yeah.
And integration did not come easily in the North.
Yeah.
As well. But what you'll also find, and you find it amongst the young people and middle-aged people, is there in the South, there is a relationship between the cultures that is unique.
Mm-hmm.
It is the South that blended black music and white music together to give us the rock and roll.
Yeah.
It's the South where artists such as Fats Domino and Tina Turner and others rose up.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's the South that whatever faults it had
mm-hmm.
also produced the strength of these black artists.
Yeah.
And not just black singers and musicians, but also literally artists of every kind.
Yeah.
It's the South and the writings of the South that gave us To Kill a Mockingbird,
mm-hmm.
That opened people's eyes everywhere.
Yeah.
And so, do we deserve a certain black eye here in the South? The answer is probably yes.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are around the regular folks in the South, the people who you go to college with, the people who you work with, the people who have been exposed to all the races, there is the South is not a scary place.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, and it goes back to something that is as old as the automobile. You know, you always hear the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah.
Squeaky wheel also is what makes news.
Yeah.
And so what you hear is all the bad stuff.
Yes.
I mean, you know, there are people who are scared to travel overseas because they hear the bad stuff.
Yes.
Yet you get overseas and it's safe.
Yeah.
It's perfectly safe. It's easy for us to embrace our fears until we meet someone that we're scared of and find out they're just like us.
Yeah.
Okay, let me put 2023, 2024 into perspective
mm-hmm.
by telling you a story from 1942. I had an uncle named Troy Rhodes.
Mm-hmm.
He was in World War II. And he was fighting in some of the most fierce fighting in all of World War II, and it was Attu.
Mm-hmm.
Attu is in the Aleutian Islands in Alaska.
Yeah.
And literally, the fighting was so close over weeks of time, you got to know the other side.
Yeah.
You could recognize differences in the soldiers.
Yeah.
And at one point, my uncle and his group,
mm-hmm.
who were made up mainly of people from Missouri and Arkansas, part of the National Guard system that ended up there.
Yeah.
You actually know people here in this town whose fathers or grandparents would have fought in those battles.
Yeah.
Overran this camp.
Mm-hmm.
And the Japanese fought till they died.
Yeah.
And my grandfather actually looked at faces of dead men that he knew because he had been looking at them for 2 and 3 days. It wasn't some nameless person.
Yeah.
He had gotten through binoculars and stuff seeing these people.
Their personalities, their actions.
And he found in this man that he didn't know if he had killed him or somebody else had.
Yeah.
He found a journal with pictures in it.
Mm-hmm.
And my uncle Troy, carried that the rest of the war.
Yeah.
No matter where he went, he ended up going to the islands and in the Pacific to fight, and then ultimately in Burma.
Okay.
He was injured. He was a hero. But everywhere he went, he kept this journal written in Japanese and with these pictures in it of this family.
Yeah.
And about 10, 12 years after the war ended,
mm-hmm.
in the 1950s, he refines this journal.
Yeah.
He takes it to the Japanese embassy.
Mm-hmm.
or consulate. Actually, he didn't actually go to the embassy. He went to a consulate in St. Louis because
Yeah.
he lived in Missouri, and had them translated,
Mm-hmm.
and found out that this man was feeling the same things he was feeling. He didn't want to be there. He was missing his kids.
Yeah.
He was missing his wife. He wanted his old life back.
Yeah.
He didn't want to be fighting this war. He didn't hate the Americans.
Mm-hmm.
He was given a job and having to do it.
Yeah.
My uncle was so moved by that,
Mm-hmm.
that this uncle who had fought the Japanese, and therefore the Japanese were the enemy, and even after the war, you had difficulty reconciling them now as friends.
Yeah, there were a lot of issues in America with
Sure,
that.
yeah, and that was going to continue
Mm-hmm.
for a while. But he went back into the 1950s and early 60s and found the family.
Oh, that's awesome.
It took all kinds of writing. It took all kinds of work. I don't know how much time and effort and money it cost him.
Mm-hmm.
And he got the pictures and the journal back to his family
Yeah.
because he wanted, and then he told them, I was just like your husband. I was missing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like your father. I was missing the same thing.
Yeah.
The fact that he had that translated
Mm-hmm.
connected him with that man.
Yeah.
It also connected him with a culture he didn't understand, but suddenly grew a relationship with and eventually a friendship with.
Yeah.
I think that's the lesson for all of us. You know,
Mhm.
I wrote that in a book called Gratitude. I think I wrote this where that story was written in a nonfiction book that I wrote.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that is the lesson for all of us,
Yeah.
in that we have to find common ground, we have to actually make a step forward and get to know people.
Yeah.
We all have something in common.